For over 100 years, the Bank of Moundville has been a name clients can trust. The Bank of Moundville is more than just a bank. They're your neighbors, your friends, and your community partners. Their unique approach to financial education has always centered around families. They believe that financially strong homes today lay the foundation for a brighter futures for tomorrow's generation. You can call them today at 205-371-2227. Once again, that is 371-2227 to schedule an appointment to build your financial security. The Bank of Moundville is a member FDIC and an equal housing lender. It is time for the Missouri and Oklahoma preview show right here on the Stingray Show. And Oklahoma has won 8 of the last 10. However, Missouri won last year's showdown in Como. We are about to be joined by Ryan Aber of Sooners on SI. And then later on, we will be joined by Brenden of the Mizzodcast to do a preview of Oklahoma and Missouri right here on this edition of the Stingray Show.
Hi, this is Tim Brando with a reminder. Look out, you're about to feel the buzz of Stingray.
This is Stephen Ray, a.k.a. Stingray, coming to you live from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
I'm Heath Hopkins. I'm here in DeSoto County, Mississippi, right outside of Memphis, Tennessee. You know, Mark, I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you feel that responsibility to pay it forward and give some kid a chance coming up in the ranks, kind of like Tony did for you?
Why do you think I'm talking to Stingray tonight?
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
No, I mean, look, no.
Hey, Stingray, Here's the deal. When you get involved with Texas, it's like getting married to a stripper. and let me explain this. It looks good. It's kind of sexy on the surface. Yeah. But then you get the baggage, you get the drama, you get all that eventually comes with it. And that's what you get with Texas, and that's what the Big 12 learned.
And Heath, any thoughts on our show moving forward?
Hey, with the Stingray Show, if you don't like it, you better learn to love it, because it's the best show going today, baby. Woo!
And with that, I want to welcome you inside another edition of the Stingray Show. Excuse me. Hope all is well with you. And Heath, give us your thoughts on Oklahoma and Missouri.
Well, I just want to give you my thoughts very quick on Oklahoma. I mean, you know, most of the national media, even the SEC media, is like, yeah, Oklahoma's a good team. They're not a great team this year, and wrote them off. This team constantly has gotten better, and everyone really wrote them off with John Mateer. They're like, I don't know if they're a contender or a pretender. They lost the Texas game. They're like, these guys are pretenders. They're just a good team. They're not a great team. Steven, since that loss, you cannot tell anybody this team has not gotten better. It is clear that the Sooners of Oklahoma have clearly gotten better and better and better each and every week. They're one of the better teams in college football.
So, Heath, to go ahead and start the Stingray Show, we are about to be joined by none other than Oklahoma on SI's Ryan Aber to talk about the huge matchup of them knocking off Alabama and to talk about the series between Missouri and Oklahoma that dates all the way back to the Big 12 days. Ryan, how excuse me, how are things with you on this Tuesday morning?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on. And this Oklahoma-Missouri series dates back a little bit more than before just the Big 12. We're talking about back in the Big 8 and even beyond that. This is a series that has been played for quite a while. And had taken a little bit of time off, but interesting now to see it be part of the SEC.
Ron, this Oklahoma team, just highly impressed. And it's the games in November, the ones you remember. People are going to remember that Alabama victory for a long time there in Norman, Oklahoma. But with that being said, what have you noticed about this team since the Red River rivalry game? What have you noticed about this team? Because it's not just John Mateer's hand healing. What have you noticed about the defense, the secondary, the front seven, the wide receivers, the running back room, whatever it might be? What have you noticed each week that's gotten better, that's really stood out to you?
Yeah, I think you've got to start off with that defense. Obviously, that's been the key for them all year, but they're getting even deeper. And we see that especially on the edge where they were missing R. Mason Thomas, their best defensive player last week, and still were able to overcome that. I mean, Taylor Wine was the SEC Defensive Lineman of the Week, and, he slid into a different role there. Obviously, playing more. He was playing a lot anyway, but taking a significant strides there. We see David Stone. We see Danny Okoye, guys that weren't playing a ton early in the season that have played much more. And then on the back end, I think you're seeing some young secondary players, Cortland Guillory, right at the top of that list, who are making significant strides. And they were so much better, I thought, in the secondary the other day. Obviously, Ty Simpson in Alabama still put up yards, but when they needed the big time plays, they were able to make them both early with, the Eli Bowen interception, and then, late with some of the plays that they made to stop Alabama from driving down the field. So just taking, incremental steps forward on defense, even though they've been good there all year. And then on the offensive side, I think the biggest thing is, I think John Mateer learning to manage the game in a different way. And, part of that is probably the health and the hand getting better. But also we saw him try to force things against Texas. We saw him try to force things even in the next couple games after that, Ole Miss. But he's been able to keep them out of bad positions and let their offense just do enough, and their defense and special teams carry the show, because their special teams have been fantastic as well. We saw it the other day with the impact that Isaiah Satania had on the punt return early in the game. And then obviously Tate Sandell throughout the game and throughout the season has just been fantastic. He's got a great chance to win the Lou Groza Award this year. It's just been phenomenal to see the progress this team has made.
Will you please talk about the turnaround that Brent Venables did from last season to this season, and especially coming into the season with Brent Venables being as one of those on the hot seat?
Yeah, I think, one, he stuck with what he believed in. He stuck with his system. He didn't, make just wholesale changes, especially on the defensive side. He bet on himself in elevating himself to be the defensive coordinator. And basically what he's doing there is saying, hey, if, this thing isn't going to work, it's not going to work. And I'm going to give it absolute what I'm best at, which is calling great defense. And he's done that this year. I think you see the creativity is at a little bit different level for them defensively. We saw it with some of the pressures they brought against Alabama. We've seen it against Tennessee and, several other times, including against Texas. And then on the offensive side, he found a guy in Ben Arbuckle whose system fit in with all of that, the philosophical stuff, but also, get you an offense that's still not perfect. I wouldn't say it's a great offense, but it can be good at times, especially when they're not turning the ball over. And if you can have a good offense with this defense, as great as it is this year, you're going to give yourselves a chance pretty much in every game. And that's what they've done. They've been, right there, even in the games they've lost, they've been right there late. But, they've been able to pull out a couple of these wins like we saw, last week against Alabama, like we saw a couple weeks ago against Tennessee, that, have them right in the thick of the college football playoff race.
So, Ryan, if you would talk about some of this series history between Missouri and Oklahoma, dating back, like you talked about, before the Big 12 and then last year's game in the SEC.
Yeah, this series is one that, for a long time, Oklahoma, like a lot of their series, has dominated, but right at the end, sort of became a fun one when you talk about Chase Daniel and some of the big matchups. I mean, they met as I believe 1-2 or 1-3 there late in their time in the Big 12. So this has been one that's been fairly lopsided, probably I would say on balance, but it's certainly had its moments and had some fun times. And it's interesting now to see, now that it's in the SEC, that you have this game as a rivalry every year, and it'll be interesting to see how that builds back up and if it becomes one of their centralized rivalries. But I know in this one specifically, there's always interesting stuff to talk about with Oklahoma and Missouri, but you talk about Caden Green on the other side that transferred from Oklahoma to Missouri. That was a talking point so much last year, but obviously this year with him coming back to Norman, and it'll be a fun matchup for sure.
Ron, seeing this Missouri team last week, I was so impressed with them of how their defense attacks off the edge. They've got great pass rush off the edge. They can shut down the run extremely fast off the edge. I was very impressed with their front seven. With that, how do you think Oklahoma is going to attack this Missouri defense?
Yeah, I think the formula is what we've seen out of Oklahoma's offense for the last couple of weeks. I think it's being able to run the football at times. They're not a great running team. They're probably not even, I wouldn't say, a good running team. But with Xavier Robinson in particular, they've been able to find a little bit of something there and been able to be effective. Their offensive line has gotten significantly better, especially at the tackle spots since they've gone to those two freshmen, Michael Fasusi and Ryan Foje. Have especially Michael Fasusi has been really good when he's been able to avoid penalties. He's been fantastic. We saw him make such a big difference in the Michigan game early in the season, and he's gotten significantly better over these last couple games. And then for John Mateer, it's avoid turnovers. Don't make stupid throws that we saw him make a little bit right after that comeback from the injury. If he can do that, manage the game, spread the ball out. They didn't have a great passing attack last week. They need to get Isaiah Satania more involved offensively, but also I think you've got to rely on guys like Deion Burks, like Jaron Kanik a little bit more in this game, and try to spread things around and maybe sort of use the short passing game as an extension of the running game in this one, with as well as Missouri gets sideline to sideline.
You talked about the Oklahoma running game just then. You bring in Jaden Ott, who I thought was just going to be a superstar in the SEC this year. Hasn't really panned out. You got a young running back there, and Robinson, who I really like. I think he is explosive at times. But with that, is it more of a line problem? Is it because the passing game looks like it's there and you would open up the running game more? Is it just run blocking that's just not working, or is it just team speed of the SEC? I mean, what is it that you see that's like, man, we got to improve this before next year?
Yeah, I think they do need to improve on the offensive line. I think that'll happen on the outsides with the guys they've got running at tackle. Those guys, just freshmen, they're going to make significant strides, especially guys that have the expectations that go along with Michael Fasusi and Ryan Foje, how big of recruits they were. They've got to get better on the interior there, and they just need to be able to do a better job consistently of finding the right holes. And Xavier Robinson is still fairly young. They're two top running backs right now, Xavier Robinson and Torrey Blaylock. You've got a sophomore and a freshman. And those guys have sort of been thrown into a fire in a way that, we didn't expect. Certainly didn't expect it last year when Xavier Robinson came up, there at the end of the season and came out of redshirt to be one of their primary running backs there at the end. But didn't expect it this year with Jaden Ott. with Javonte Barnes, who hasn't played and looks like he's likely headed for a red shirt and probably a transfer. So, they certainly need to get better there, but you really like what you see from those two young running backs. They just need some time to grow into that role, especially Xavier Robinson. I mean, the physicality that he brings combined with that explosiveness helps, give him a chance to be really effective in the SEC. We saw it last year against Alabama. Didn't see a whole lot of it on Saturday night, but got banged up there, in the second half of that game. But they're going to need him here against Missouri and LSU to close this season.
Ryan, if you're Oklahoma, where are you most concerned that Missouri can take advantage of you, if anywhere?
Well, I think the good thing for Oklahoma is that Missouri's strength, especially offensively, it plays into Oklahoma's strength defensively.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about stopping the run, and Missouri's been very good with the run. They ran for over 300 yards last week against Mississippi State. We've seen them put up significantly big numbers, but you look at Auburn a few weeks ago. That game went to double overtime. They needed everything that they could get to get out of it with the win, and only ran for 91 yards there. And I think Oklahoma has been fantastic against the run. They need to do that. I think the biggest thing is you look, you want that secondary to keep holding up. They're clearly going to get tested. Teams have sort of figured out that, hey, if we're going to beat Oklahoma's defense, we've got to find ways to pick on the secondary and get out of that quick pressure. And then, on the offensive side, I think it really just goes back to, what we've been talking about all day, which is, avoiding turnovers, being smart, and being able to get just enough done to come out of it with a win. And
Yes.
Generally, when your defense is able to give you the ball in good field position, a few times a game, then you can do that, especially when you've got a guy like Tate Sandell that is pretty much automatic from 50 or closer.
Ron, fun question, because I've been impressed with the running game with Oklahoma, and I know it's nothing special, but it just seems like kind of next man up mentality, and they keep finding a different guy. Like I said earlier, we thought it was going to be Jaden Ott earlier in the season, and now it's here to Robinson, and you just talked about Javonte Barnes. There's some talent in that running back room. Who's going to be the starter next year, if you had to guess? Is it going to be one of those guys, or is it going to be someone from the transfer portal?
Yeah, I think it's probably going to be either Xavier Robinson or Torrey Blaylock. Excuse me. Torrey Blaylock, showed some real explosiveness early in the season when he got chances. We saw him, be great against Temple, against South Carolina, and some of those teams. He hasn't been fully healthy, I don't believe, over these last few weeks, and that's held him back. Obviously, another big part of that is Xavier Robinson's emergence. But I think that combination, ideally, Oklahoma likes to have a couple running backs. I mean, we've seen that quite a bit. I think back to the Sambaje Perine, Joe Mixon days when they had a couple of the best running backs in college football. They're not quite at that level for sure, but there's a lot of talent. But what they've got to do is, like we talked about earlier, get better on the offensive line and blocking for those guys, because I think both those guys really have potential to be stars in the SEC, but especially Xavier Robinson with that physicality just, I think, puts him over the edge. So probably give him a slight betting favorite over Torrey Blaylock.
And Ryan, as we walk out the door, please give us your prediction on how you think this year's edition of Missouri and Oklahoma is going to do. Missouri is currently with a 1-game lead in the recent series as they won last year. Does Missouri make it 2, or does Oklahoma avenge last year's loss?
Yeah, I think this Oklahoma team is just playing a little bit too well right now, especially on defense. You look at Missouri has lost, 3 of their last 5. And, like I talked about, Missouri's strengths play into what Oklahoma's strengths are, especially defensively. I think given this game's in Norman, it's going to be close. that's what happens in the SEC, especially in November, and especially with this Oklahoma team. It happens a lot. But I think this defense is just rolling along right now. I think they hold Missouri. I'm going to go 24-14 Oklahoma over Missouri on Saturday.
Wow. That low scoring. Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think the way that Oklahoma's defense is playing, holds them down. We saw what they were able to do. I know Ty Simpson got his yards, but they were able to have, more success than really anybody had all year at getting after Ty Simpson and forcing him to make quick, bad decisions. And I think they're able to do that in a much bigger way against Missouri.
Hey, Ryan, it's got to feel so good for the Oklahoma Sooner fans. Yes, you lost to Texas, but if you guys hold serve and win out, you guys make the playoffs. Your arch rival, the Longhorns of Texas, were eliminated by Georgia.
Yeah, there were a lot of Oklahoma fans who were really happy with both of those results on Saturday night, and they're not brokenhearted about that at all. But the biggest thing for Oklahoma is on their side of it, being able to have a chance, if you can win these last two games, to make the first playoff for them since 2019. And certainly they want to do that and not have a Lincoln Riley team be the last one at Oklahoma that's thought about as a playoff team, because Brent Venables is embraced in a way, and we talked about this earlier in the year. Brent Venables is embraced in a way that Lincoln Riley just wasn't quite ever, other than for his on-field success. And there's a lot of people who were rooting for him to be successful, and obviously he had his biggest moment last Saturday night as a head coach.
Yes.
Rob, we're going to see this one day, and it's going to be insane. We're going to see either an SEC championship game or the first round of the playoffs where one of the schools get to host, where we're going to see the Red River rivalry there. We're going to see, the third Saturday in October.
Yeah.
We're going to see one of these games, an LSU Ole Miss. It's not going to happen this year, but Georgia Auburn. We're going to see one of these games.
Yeah.
Where it's old time or a very old rivalry, and it's going to play out in the playoffs or the SEC championship game. What would that look like? Let's just say, for some odd reason, a lot of people lose in front of Texas, and Oklahoma gets a home game, and they're hosting Texas in Norman. How would that scene be? Is someone going to die?
In all likelihood. Luckily for fans of both these teams, you don't have a scenario like down in Dallas, and it's gotten a whole lot calmer. But back in the day, you go to Commerce Street the night before OU Texas, and you never knew what you were going to get into down there. So it would be wild. We saw it in the Big 12 championship game a couple years ago with OU and Texas, but that's a little bit more antiseptic feel when you're at Jerry World versus right in the middle of the State Fair. It would be a much different atmosphere if it was on campus. It would be phenomenal, and I can't wait for something like that to happen, because it'll be the best thing that we've seen in college football. OU and Texas need to play in Dallas. That's what makes this rivalry so unique. The stadium split down the middle, the State Fair Texas going on around it, but to have a one-off like an OU Texas playoff would be absolutely phenomenal.
I know.
For campus.
Ryan, as always, thank you for taking time to join us. Boomer Sooner this weekend. Good luck to you guys, and we will catch up with you later on, especially when the playoffs are announced, to talk about hopefully the Oklahoma Sooners being back in the playoffs.
Sounds great, guys. Appreciate it as always. Have a great week.
Yeah, and Ryan, let me also add this as well. Happy Thanksgiving, my friend.
Thank you. Y'all too.
Right. Okay, so Heath, that is going to wrap up the Oklahoma side of this matchup. And I got to tell you, man, what a turnaround from Brent Venables based off of what he did from last year's team to this year's team.
Yeah, it's quite remarkable. I mean, Brent Venables was one of those guys like Sam Pittman on the hot seat coming into the season, and no one was going to be shocked if there was going to be a change, a turnover midseason. No one was going to be shocked if Brent Venables was not the head coach come Halloween. It wouldn't have shocked anybody in the SEC media. Wouldn't have shocked the fans either. So to see them kind of buckle down and kind of get back to it's truly amazing. Hey, Stephen, I want to add something real quick. A guy I grew up with, I was in this guy's wedding. We roomed together in college. His dad played football at Oklahoma back in the day. And he always made the joke. He goes, man, it wasn't until my junior year that I found out Texas was the Longhorns. I was like, well, what did you think they were? He goes, I thought they were the Unicorns, because every time we saw the Texas fans, they were always giving us the bird.
Yeah.
Which I always thought was hilarious. He goes, I always thought they were the Unicorns.
Hey, Heath, let me also say this. I truly feel like and this is based off of my prediction, based off what Oklahoma has done, based off of from last year to this year. If the season ended today, my vote for SEC Coach of the Year goes to Brent Venables.
Yeah, I mean, you would have some arguments, and some solid arguments to make with that.
Yeah.
Everyone thought Lane Kiffin was going to be in a rebuilding year. And the schedule for Ole Miss has been very nice to them.
Yeah.
Texas A&M, the schedule's been nice to them as well. Elko could be up for that award. There's a lot of people that could be up for that award. I mean, you could make an argument for Kirby Smart. You can make an argument for almost anybody in this league for that award. So, but yeah, I'm kind of with you, because he had to deal with a lot.
Yes.
He had a lot of outside noise coming at him, and a lot of unknowns with a new coordinator, a new quarterback, a new running back. He had to change a lot during the offseason, but man, did he make those choices. Again, Stephen, as we've said on the show over and over and over, head coaches are fired for the decisions they make at offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. You make one wrong hire, bye.
Yeah.
See ya. It's over. And look what's happening in Norman this year in Oklahoma. He made a right decision at offensive coordinator, and now everyone's talking about how great the Sooners are, and they are great.
And Heath, let me also say we've got a lot of love for our guest, Ryan Aber. The first one comes from Annabelle Gillum. What an awesome guest. And then the other one comes from Sheila Hall, who says, I enjoyed the guest. And guys, thank you for commenting. And we have another guest coming up with us right after this, as we are going to switch gears and talk about the Missouri Tigers, as Brenden is going to join us right after this.
I like Brenden.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bill Ferguson of South's Finest Meats, the official sponsor of the Stingray Show, has a message for you.
Everything we do here is fresh and custom made, custom to order. I tell people when they come in, if you don't see what you like, ask somebody. We've got the capability to process it, make it. If you want a different blend of hamburger meat, we'll do you a brisket blend. We'll do you a chuck blend. We'll do you a sirloin blend. We do all that right here. We are a butcher shop. That's what we do. So please don't be afraid to ask if you don't see what you like. We can make you any size patty you want. We can make you any amount you want. People call me and say, well, how many patties come in the box? Well, how many would you like in a box? You want 12, we'll put 12. You want 25, we'll put 25.
That's just one of the many things that South's Finest Meats has to offer, the official butcher shop of the Stingray Show. And guys, we want to thank all of our advertisers as well as our sponsors right here on the Stingray Show, and the sponsor right there is South's Finest Meats. So thank you to all of them. And now we are about to switch gears and turn our attention to the Missouri Tigers, who are coming off of a beatdown of Mississippi State. Now they go on the road to take on their old familiar foe from the Big 12, the Oklahoma Sooners. And Missouri won this game last year. Brenden, how are things with you in Como, Missouri?
Things are going good, guys. It was a real important bounce back for the Tigers after a really deflating performance against Texas A&M. A performance that was not altogether unexpected, given that we're on our third quarterback of the season, a true freshman getting his first start against the number 3 team in the country. But then Mississippi State coming into town really helped salve some wounds. I know that's something Mississippi State does, but Missouri fans appreciate it. And honestly, it was all just the Ahmad Hardy show. Anybody who had paid any attention to that game knew Ahmad Hardy had just a career night.
Brenden, looking at this Missouri team, it's been a little bit of a roller coaster of a season, and they didn't really bring any of this pain on them with injuries. You're in the third string quarterback. All the Eli Drinkowitz rumors are coming around, and that's only because of the success of the program and him winning at a super high level. And just kind of beat up a little bit as we come down to the final stretch of the season. But, Missouri's sitting there at what, like 7 wins right now? They got a chance to get a couple of more. What's the bowl game picture right now for Missouri? Is it something where, hey, we got to win one more and we're going to get a New Year's Day bowl? Or are you hoping for the Capital One Bowl, which is, the best bowl outside the playoff? What are you guys hearing right now there in Como?
Well, I think the reality is a lot of folks are just kind of holding their breath regarding the bowl picture. And that's because, yes, they are still a team that can beat the snot out of a deflated Mississippi State team late in the season. Yeah. But they're going to Oklahoma after watching them beat Alabama, and Alabama at the top of their game. None of the things that concerned us at Texas A&M are gone away. We still got look, Matt Zollers, the freshman quarterback who's been playing the last couple of weeks. He doesn't look too bad. I mean, he's certainly got an arm. He's got all the measurables, and I think he's going to be a fine quarterback. But he's a freshman, and he just gotten thrown to the wolves, and it shows in games coming up. Like in games coming up against Oklahoma, and certainly the A&M game. And so I think there are some, just fans are reserving any excitement for the bowl picture until after this weekend. Yeah. Even Arkansas is no gimme. Arkansas's got a great offense. I think that we can see Ahmad Hardy really do some damage to those guys on the defensive side. But, we're looking at, I'm hopeful, for a 9-win regular season. If we get 8, honestly, guys, there's a lot of talk early in the season about a college football playoff, but so many new faces coming into Missouri. Nobody knew Ahmad Hardy. Nobody knew Pribula, and nobody had ever seen Sam Horn. And so certainly nobody knew Matt Zollers. I didn't have 9 wins. I think that's still great coming off of 2 10-win seasons. I'm not personally deflated, but I'm certainly not going to make any sort of bowl projections until after the Oklahoma game.
Brenden, there were a couple of rumors that I saw that Pribula could potentially play or be back for the Oklahoma game. What are you hearing on that front from the Missouri quarterback position?
Yeah, that's certainly a possibility. If you watched the Missouri-Mississippi State game at all, you saw that while he did not dress out for that game, he was taking warm-up snaps before the game. He's hopping on that ankle. It looks surprisingly healthy given his circumstances. What we were hearing last weekend was that he can move and he has a lot of mobility, but if he does much at all, at least as of last week, he really feels it. It starts to ache and cause him pain. And so my suspicion is that we will not see Pribula in this game unless absolutely necessary for some reason, because that ankle, while healing quite quickly, is still very tender. And that offensive line for Missouri is still very porous. And so, pass protection has been a real problem. And I just think, it would be a little bit, I would be questioning the coaching staff if they put a tender quarterback out there, given the circumstances.
Brenden, I don't want to bring up bad news because that's not what this show's about. But the rumors with Eli Drinkowitz and all the crazy.
I avoided that nicely, didn't you, Siri?
Yes.
It's just a lot of noise, and it's only building and getting louder.
Mm-hmm.
what have you heard? What's the most recent? Is the school getting ready to back up the Brinks, armored truck to the front door and just say, Eli, we love you here. Just stick around. Here's $12 million. Just enjoy Como a little bit longer. I mean,
Yeah.
what have you heard? Is there? Are we looking at 10 figures? And what are we looking at with Eli in this extension?
Yeah. So, when Drinkwitz came to Columbia 5 years ago, we said, as on our show, like, look, if Missouri is the type of program that if you have success, if you get 10 win plus, if you get college playoff bid, if you get a good New Year's Day bowl with any sort of regularity or consistency, people are going to come after your coach. And that is the price you pay for success when you're considered a middle tier program. And that's exactly what we're seeing. And the rumor mill had spread really hot about Penn State for Eli Drinkwitz for a while. We're hearing last week buzz around the boosters of saying that we're going to Drinkwitz and saying that please consider sticking around. We will do whatever it takes to make that appealing to you, and we have whatever it takes to make that appealing to you. So yeah, you talk about 10 figures. If that's what's going to take to keep him, the board of curators at Mizzou is very fond of Eli Drinkwitz. They're basically hand selected by him during the coaching search process, and they still like him. And the boosters have shown their support when it comes to putting together NIL money, putting together extensions. I think even if Eli Drinkwitz does end up going somewhere else next year, it won't be because Missouri didn't throw the bank at him. So they're going to make a push to keep him. There's a lot of openings this year, but I will say this, not all of them are as appealing as his job and his current situation he has at Missouri. While people may not consider Missouri a destination location, it's an ideal spot for Eli Drinkwitz right now. You know what I mean? Like, you're not getting fired after an 8 or 9 win season at Missouri, and You're not going to get in the hot seat for one bad loss at Missouri. That being said, the best job in the United States continues to be a fired SEC football coach and collecting.
Absolutely, it is.
Those,
So, Brenden, briefly, talk about this series history from the Missouri side, dating all the way back to before the Big 12, in the Big 12, and then last year's matchup that Missouri won.
Yeah, I'm your guy to talk to about that. I wrote a book about the 1960 Missouri team that was so solid, and the Missouri program that was so good in the 1960s. But they, one of the highlights of that season was beating Oklahoma, and just beating Oklahoma was a big deal because in the Bud Wilkinson days, nobody beat Oklahoma. They just won national title after national title. When it was the Big Eight, they used to call it Oklahoma and the Seven Dwarves because no one beat Oklahoma. And Missouri certainly has taken their lumps against Oklahoma, but some of the finest memories in my Mizzou fandom have been games against Oklahoma. In 2010, game day came to town. Oklahoma was #1 team in the country, and Missouri upset them at home. It remains one of the best games I ever went to, and the excitement level in Columbia was unrivaled. Last year, as you mentioned, was another win. It was a rough game. Oklahoma was not a good team that year, but Missouri was having its own problems down the stretch, and that win really catapulted them to finish strong. And people forget that was a backup quarterback that got the job done against them too. So, it was a really exciting win for Missouri, and it was a great thing with them coming into the SEC for us to still get a win against them. I'm sure that Oklahoma remembers that. And all that being said, is Norman is an incredibly tough place to play. I think SEC fans are learning that. They look at it's not a 100,000 seat stadium like some of them in the SEC, but it is loud. The fans are raucous and intense. And I think it's going to earn a reputation amongst SEC fans as one of the harder places to play. So it'll be tough.
Brenden, I'm not a what-if guy, but we're fixing to play the what-if game very quickly. If Eli Drinkwitz happens to go somewhere.
You're stuck on this, man.
I am. The coaching carousel fascinates me this time of year. I've always enjoyed the coaching carousel. But I think Eli some coaches, are not a good fit. They're just there for a little bit. But I think Drinkwitz is such a great fit for Missouri. And I just think if they can find a way to just throw the bank at him and keep him there, I think he could do some phenomenal things. And Eli Drinkwitz at Penn State, I don't think is a good fit for both. But I think he's a great fit at Missouri. And I've been wrong before. My wife tells me I'm wrong every day. So, there you go. But with that being said, who do you think Missouri would kind of look at or try to target if they have to get in the business of finding a head coach?
Yeah, so Missouri's been in a fortunate position that they have not been in a lot of coaching searches over the last 20 years, right? Gary Pinkel was a mainstay for us for many, many years. The first thing they did was hire one of his former assistants and former Mizzou players in Barry Odom. And Barry Odom is a fine coach, but it was Barry Odom's first head coaching role. And that was a real lesson, I think, to Mizzou boosters and the folks doing the hiring that an SEC coaching job, even if it's not considered a top tier SEC position, is not a learn on the job kind of job. And that's what Barry Odom was tasked to do. So it wasn't really fair to him, but he didn't have a lot of success here in his 4 years. They gave Eli Drinkwitz a longer leash. I mean, on year 4, before we started having some real sustained success, he was on a similar trajectory to Barry Odom. They gave him a little bit more leash. And it just seems like Eli Drinkwitz manages the landscape of modern college football better than Odom did. And you're right. I think he is a good fit for Mizzou. I think he likes it in the SEC. He likes being in the midst of the national conversation, whether Missouri's in it or not. The SEC certainly is. And he likes playing that outsider role and aggravating people. And Missouri's a perfect place to do that because we are certainly outsiders in this conference. But yet we do sneak up and beat people. The big knock on Drinkwitz has been he hasn't won the big game. But and while that is true, I think that's a little bit of an overinflated criticism because the whole point of teams being top 10 teams is you don't beat them. People don't beat top 10 teams. That's why they're top 10 teams. So whenever you say, oh, you don't beat top 10 teams, most programs don't beat top 10 teams. That's why they're top 10 because they're good. So you'll find most coaches don't have great records unless you are a top 10 team. You're probably not beating those teams. So I take those criticisms with a grain of salt. And I do think he's a better fit here. And I do think Missouri alums and boosters will throw the book at him. But there is the allure of the blue chip programs that Missouri doesn't have and will never have that. But it's just up to the coaches to decide how much that means in modern football days.
All right, so let's get off the coaching carousel and talk about some X's and O's. Brenden, we will start with where you feel like Missouri, if anywhere, can take advantage of Oklahoma.
Yeah, I think that if they're going to take advantage of Oklahoma in any way, it's going to be a challenge. But the defense has just gotten better and better.
Yes.
And the difference between the defense now and the difference, I'd say, 8 weeks ago or 6 weeks ago, is that they're causing havoc and causing turnovers. And that is going to be in any matchup, especially one where one team is heavily favored, a game changer. It certainly was against Mississippi State. They get to the quarterback, they disrupt plays, but now they can cause turnovers. And that's a real benefit. The secondary had been the issue. That early on in the season, that would have scared me a lot more because Mateer was scarier to me than he seems to be now, although, look, they're playing good football. But I think if Missouri can neutralize Oklahoma defensively in any way, what we're seeing out of Ahmad Hardy lately, yes, Missouri's offensive line has had struggles, but they're starting to figure out ways to use him and get him the ball and negate some of that offensive line play. And frankly, having this freshman kid who he's tending to overthrow guys, but he has a deep arm, and Missouri has been taking more deep shots since he's been under center, and that has opened up the playbook for Hardy. So I think that if he continues to have some success, he's not going to have 300 yards rushing like he did against Mississippi State, but if he can have some success and break away, then a neutralizing defense and then a more balanced offensive approach might give Missouri a chance. And frankly, I'm not counting Missouri out of this game. I'm really not. I know it's like an 8.5 point, they're 8.5 point underdogs or something like that, and it's on the road. But one thing about this Missouri team is they got a lot of talent. They haven't taken full advantage of it this year, but teams with talent, I mean, we saw it against Indiana, against Penn State. Penn State down bad, but still has a lot of talent. Games like that, Oklahoma beating Alabama, they got a lot, it's college football, so I'm not ruling them out.
So, Brenden, when you look at the other side of it, where are you most concerned that Missouri can be exploited by Oklahoma?
Yeah, I think Oklahoma is well coached, and they're a talented program. And what they're going to do, as any program should, is they're going to bring pressure on Matt Zollers. They're going to try to exploit that pass rush that Missouri struggled with all year, and they're well heeled to do so. When Matt Zollers has been rushed and hurried, he does tend to loft and overthrow passes, and it's caused some. He's gotten some picks out of the deal. And he's just stalled drives really quickly. So I'm sure Oklahoma is going to bring the heat. One thing I wish Missouri would do more is put together some screen passes to neutralize blitz. And if they can do something to negate that, then they'll have some success. But I know Oklahoma's just going to come at him. We're going to see a lot of pressure on the quarterback.
Heath, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Thank you for that, Stephen. You didn't have to say that. Brenden, looking at Mizzou, all teams are not at 100% toward the end of the season. Everyone's banged up, bruised up. We know the injury report for Mizzou. We've already commented on it. Everyone knows about the third-string quarterback. With that being said, how do you think the momentum is going for Mizzou right now, heading into these last two games? Do you think they're just trying to survive? Because I get that because of all the injuries and things. Are they just trying to survive and make it to the end? Or do you think there's a little uptick? Or is it like, man, we are fading. We're fading fast. Let's just try to wrap up these last two games. Your thoughts on the energy and the vibe right now with the program?
So the energy's on an uptick. That's for sure. When they lost to Texas A&M, Missouri fans and Missouri, as a program, you can hear it in Drinkwitz's voice, was down, and they were down bad. And if they had lost to Mississippi State, they were probably going to lose out. Like, it was just down bad. But because of that, that Mississippi State game was more pivotal than people realized for the Tigers, because it did change the momentum of the program, and you could still see what this team is capable of when they're kicking on all cylinders. And people have had a chance to process the fact that this is not a playoff team. They can get past those sort of high expectations and now just enjoy the rest of the college football season that we've got ahead, and hopefully see a lot more Ahmad Hardy. He's, I think, 280 yards from breaking the all-time single-season rushing record, which was just broken a couple of years before. So people are still very excited, and people still have a lot of hope and still have a lot of belief in this team. So I think that, this could change against Oklahoma again, but I do think people are looking forward to looking at a 9-win season, and hey, you go to a bowl game, win that, you drink what's puts together 3-10 wins. That's still something to strive for, and I think a lot of people feel it. And there's a lot of hatred for Oklahoma, a lot of bad blood that goes back a long time. So I think the Mizzou faithful still have a lot of fight in them right now emotionally.
9 wins, that usually will put you somewhere like Tampa or Orlando for a bowl game. So Florida bowl games are always the best. You get to enjoy that warm sun there at the start of the new year. Everybody wants that. Who doesn't want? Well, everybody wants the playoff. But if you don't get that, Florida bowl games and that sunshine, it does make the new year start off right.
Yeah, just keep us out of Shreveport,
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, go ahead. Go ahead, man.
Brenden, what's the one thing that you're looking forward to the most in this game coming up with Oklahoma? What do you have your eye on? What do you think is going to be the pivotal thing that's going to get Mizzou either over the top or, hey, if this happens here, we're going to do it. If this doesn't happen, it's going to be a long day.
Number one on that list is does Hardy have the kind of performance we saw this weekend against a top tier opponent? Because what we've seen so far is when we play Alabama and when we play Vanderbilt, or even A&M, the ranked teams we've seen so far, he's been neutralized. Those teams are well coached. They've devised a good scheme to keep him quiet. Will he remain quiet against Oklahoma? If he makes noise, Missouri's in this thing. And the second thing is, will Matt Zollers connect on something deep? Because he has been making more attempts. And I think the quiet thing people need to look out for, hasn't been talked a lot, is Brett Norfleet is Missouri's star tight end. He's been banged up the last couple of weeks. He's back. And will Brett Norfleet get involved? Because when he gets involved, that's a hard, big pass target for a really freshman quarterback. So keep your eyes on 85 Norfleet, because he could be a factor in this game. I guess that's going to be my sort of secret pick, is watch out for Norfleet.
He's a matchup nightmare. How tall is he? Because he looks like he's tall as the weather.
He is. What I was off the top of my head, he is tall as the weather, though. That's I think the scientific approach to it. He's a big dude, and his arms are even longer. The other thing I would say to look out for is the freshman wide receiver Alubade. Hard to say, easy to watch. He has a tremendous wingspan. He's become more and more of a target, and Drinkwitz and Kirby Moore are utilizing him more and more, especially since Zoller can zip it to him. So those two guys, Alubade and Norfleet, outside of the Ahmad Hardy show, they're going to open things up for him. If they have success doing that, then you're going to see a lot of good running from the Tigers.
Okay, we're going to wrap it up with this, Brenden. How do you see it playing out in Norman, Oklahoma, between Missouri and Oklahoma?
Well, you want me to pick with my head or my heart here?
Both.
You do both.
I'd like to see Missouri win this thing. If they do, it'll be close and go down to the wire like 27-24, something like that. I do think that it's a tall order for them, especially the way Oklahoma's finally started to kick things into gear. It's taken them a while, but I'd say Oklahoma winning like 31-24 will be a likely outcome. But if Missouri puts on a good show against them and makes it close, I still think there's going to be optimism going into the final game of the season against Arkansas.
So, Brenden, before we get out of here, I do have to ask you, you love nudging people a little bit. Your thoughts on Sark and Texas being eliminated from the playoffs?
Well, you got to remember, I don't just dislike Texas. I also dislike Oklahoma. And
Right.
I think that you got to remember that Oklahoma for many years was coached by Stoops, who was, Bob Stoops was one of the worst human beings in college football and probably on the Western Hemisphere, just a horrible person. And so I got a little hate for him. But yes, am I enjoying the fact that Texas is not all they've cracked up to be? Of course I am. I'll join the brigade of humans that also feel good about that. Look, Arch Manning, unfortunately, has had to deal with a lot of drop passes and receivers not connecting, things like that. But I think we've seen enough body evidence to know that he is not the one who was called upon to be the next great hope. He is decidedly mortal, and I've lost zero sleep over realizing that. So sorry, Texas. Maybe we can go up against you in the Shreveport Bowl.
That's awesome. Brenden, as always, thank you, man. Hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. We will catch up with you later on to talk about the bowl game for Missouri, okay?
Sounds great. Always good to talk to you guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Brenden. Take care, brother.
Thank you.
So, Heath, that is going to wrap up the Missouri and Oklahoma preview show right there with Brenden from the Mizzodcast and also Ryan Aber of Sooners on SI. When we return on the Wednesday edition of the Stingray Show, we are definitely going to be talking about the Tennessee Volunteers hosting the Florida Gators. We had to switch that up today because of some scheduling issues. Neither one of the guests could join this morning, so we've got them scheduled for tomorrow morning. So tomorrow is going to be the rivalry game between Tennessee and Florida, and we will see you back here in the morning at 8:15 a.m. Have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday out there, everybody, and the Stingray Show will see you tomorrow morning.
Hey, Steven, what are we going to talk about in the post show?
I don't think we're going to do a post show because we're at 55 minutes already. So let's just scrap that for tomorrow. Okay, buddy?
Well, there you go. I'm all right with that. I got plenty to do. I know that.
Yes. All right. So, guys, we are done after we run these ads. So thank you guys for joining us. Tomorrow morning, we will be back with a pre-show, a show, and a post-show starting at 8:15 right here on social media for Tennessee and Florida.
Good Lord willing, sayonara. We'll see you tomorrow.
The Thanksgiving holiday is fastly approaching, and if you have a large family coming to your house, let the Coker Market take the hassle out of the Thanksgiving dinner for you. You can order from the Coker Market smoked turkey breast, smoked half a ham, a Boston butt, wings by the dozen, tenders by the dozen, or sausage balls. Now with casseroles, which you just take and bake, sweet potato casserole, cornbread dressing, and green bean casserole. They also offer baked beans, potato salad, and yeast rolls. You can find them at County Road 140 in Coker, Alabama at the intersection of Romulus Road at the four-way intersection, or you can call to get your order done at 205-331-5066. Once again, that is 331-5066. Let the Coker Market take the hassle out of the Thanksgiving dinner for you this holiday season. I am representing a clothing company right here in Tuscaloosa that is called J&J Apparel. If you like the Mississippi State shirt that I have on, you can find all of their Mississippi State apparel as well as Auburn, Alabama, and Ole Miss at jnjapparel.com. They are located right here in Tuscaloosa, but they also have other merchandise for other SEC schools as well. So once again, if you do like this polo that I've got on and the Walking Bulldog, go to jnjapparel.com and get all of your SEC merch right there for Ole Miss, Alabama, Auburn, and Mississippi State with J&J Apparel. We all enjoy the changing of the seasons. Fall is a special time to be thankful for our families and many blessings. It is also a great time, though, to review your insurance coverages. Alpha Insurance and hometown agent Jeff Nee can help you personalize your insurance needs. The more you protect, the more you save. With helpful customer service teams right here to serve you in Alabama and over in Mississippi, you can count on Alpha to provide the insurance plan that provides the protection that you need. For all your auto, home, life, and business insurance needs, call Alpha agent Jeff Nee or drop by his office at 202 McFarland Boulevard East, Suite 101 in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And remember, with Jeff Nee, the more you protect, the more you save. Ladies and gentlemen, Bill Ferguson of South's Finest Meats, the official sponsor of the Stingray Show, has a message for you.
Everything we do here is fresh and custom made, custom to order. I tell people when they come in, if you don't see what you like, ask somebody. We've got the capability to process it, make it. If you want a different blend of hamburger meat, we'll do you a brisket blend. We'll do you a chuck blend. We'll do you a sirloin blend. We do all that right here. We are a butcher shop. That's what we do. So please don't be afraid to ask if you don't see what you like. We can make you any size patty you want. We can make you any amount you want. People call me and say, well, how many patties come in the box? Well, how many would you like in a box? You want 12, we'll put 12. You want 25, we'll put 25.
That's just one of the many things that South's Finest Meats has to offer, the official butcher shop of the Stingray Show.